Hey everyone, welcome back to Mandela. Oh wait, no actually, it's been a while, but this is the classic Futurama retrospective.
Yeah.
We didn't even finish off season 2 last time, so let's get around to this now. The Cryonic Woman, the final episode, as I stated, of the second season. I guess the plot sort of comes back around to Fry reminiscing about the 20th century. We have references to the pilot episode,
Yeah.
both in referencing the career chips in the cryogenic lab, and of course Michelle's first appearance since that first episode, unless she was in a flashback in between then, I'm not sure.
And I love how the like the reference initially that's how Fry and Leela met in that scene that's just in some random park that's like kind of poorly animated but for some reason is really like existential.
Yeah.
Because like imagine you haven't because for example I didn't watch Futurama in chronological order. I first saw like the Parasites episode.
Oh, interesting.
So if you saw this show like out of order and you just see a scene like that, you'd be like, "What? Where did this come from?" And then you see those cryogenic scenes. So it is funny how it brings it back. But even if you haven't seen it before, it's still kind of like you're intrigued to actually find out about it. That's how I first like. I kind of find that interesting when you see a snippet of a show early on, especially like a sitcom with a loose sort of serialized plot throughout it, not like some strict thing.
Uh-huh.
And so you're intrigued by things like that, or episodes like this, as to, where it all started from. As opposed to when you watch it these days, like us watching it through again in chronological order.
Yeah.
You get the big picture or whatever.
Yeah.
But I almost like the mystery box element of when you have to piece it together before you can then watch it through.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know if I've mentioned this in the retrospectives I saw. The first episode I ever saw a bit of was the clone episode. What's that even? I can't even remember what that's called.
Clone of My Own?
No, that's Hubert.
Oh,
Hubert.
sorry. Yeah, you mean the Lucy Liu
Yeah,
bots.
excuse me. Sorry, yeah.
I forget what that
I
is.
dated the robot.
Yeah, that's
a bit of that at the end. It was kind of creeped me out when they're trying to like break into the projection room. I was like, whoa, this is more grown up than The Simpsons.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah.
And then I saw a bit of Raging Bender on the end of that, and I thought that was pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
But sort of nihilistic, Bender getting flattened, it's like... Because Futurama could like... I mean, Simpsons did it too sometimes, that Futurama could imply that this character is getting grievously or mortally wounded, but then the next episode would begin just as, nothing's changed, you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially Bender. He takes a lot of damage throughout the running of the show, definitely.
I think this episode's got a lot of potential, and I actually think it quite realises it. Like, it's got quite a strong script, and I just think it's a great episode in terms of the continuity, and I suppose attempts at... Not that it necessarily ends up as that, but attempts at like a Fry / Fry character development episode.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. But it's not necessarily a character development episode in the sense that it follows some obnoxious scaffold. It just sort of examines how he responds to this particular circumstance, I think.
Yeah, and especially like bringing up like his girlfriend from the first episode.
Yeah,
she's only very briefly in the episode.
Yeah,
so you finally do flesh out I guess a little bit of Fry's backstory, but yeah, it's not done with the sort of pomp of some of the other backstory episodes. Certainly.
Yeah.
I guess it's a case of before they got into that sort of habit, like watching the newest episodes recently. Like an old Futurama fan can't help but notice. Like you and I have talked about it. The relationship with the parents or whatever. And there was even a joke in this episode where it was like, his parents kept him out of public school because it was a waste on the taxpayers' dollars.
And then also why they didn't encourage a police search, because it's a waste of taxpayer money, yeah.
It's just completely in like opposition to the sort of the tone of like, the new show is completely different in how it handles that backstory aspect. They really ape off the sort of more sentimental parts of the show that like eventually became the like beloved parts later on.
Yeah, they did.
You'd always see memes about like the dog Seymour or
Fryrish.
Yeah, or like the last episode.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Things like that, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And so they try to replicate that, I feel, a bit later on.
Whereas obnoxiously so, yeah.
Like you said, in this episode, that's not even on anyone's mind. So it completely just feels natural. And whilst not being like overly sentimental or anything, it's also like a joke a minute.
Yeah.
Like I kind of do forget about that about this episode. The Pauly Shore thing's a bit strange.
I guess he was just available. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like, they somehow write material for Pauly Shore to somehow make it, like, not unbearable.
Yeah, that's
like,
impressive, actually.
That's the most impressive part about it. Because you'd think in any other show, it would just be... This episode would be unbearable. But somehow it's still a really good episode. Just somehow including that, you know.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely something. They're very clever writers, evidently.
Yeah,
right?
I think a quality of season 2, but it also is its pitfall in a way is the pure kind of sitcom fun silly season. They don't have any serious like super somber episodes like the next 2 seasons have, and I love a lot of those episodes, but sometimes I think they kind of outweigh some of the other strengths of the program. That being said,
even the first episode. Like, it's low key. I always loved in the second episode where they're on the moon, that part where Fry reflects on why he thought the moon was mysterious when he was a kid, and then you see the reflection of his Earth, like a little animated thing in his visor, and then it cuts to the like animation of Earth. That's a nice little moment as well.
Yeah,
like there's very few moments like that, or like the ones that are throughout the next seasons. In this season, I definitely agree.
Yeah, and like
where it's in the sitcom groove, I do really love it though.
It's just obviously season 2 went a bit in the silly direction sometimes when we're in the honking territory, or even like Raging Bender, Crustacean in Love, Hermes requisitioned his groove back where they're just like silly character episodes, and sometimes they made for good or even really strong character. Like we had I love The Lesser of Two Evils is an episode about Fry and Bender is magnificent. And one of my favorite Fry episodes is one of my favorite episodes of the show is Put Your Head on My Shoulders. It's just,
that's one of the best ones of this season.
Absolutely magnificent. And Poplars is just a brilliant analog in general, like one of the show's crown jewels in a way.
Yeah, Poplars, it's a very fun episode as well. Yeah, it's got the season 2 energy done right.
Yeah.
Whereas I guess the season 2 thing, when it's at its most sort of pulling at strings, is the honking perhaps. Whereas this episode's definitely in the upper echelon of season 2 episodes.
I agree. I tend to think of the best episodes of this season 2. As I said, Poplars comes to mind, but also Anthology of Interest 1 is in this season. I mentioned Put Your Head on My Shoulders. Mother's Day I think is a really strong episode. Good character development again, actually.
Yeah, and once again, similar to this, a bit subtly. More subtly than, later on. It becomes sort of very blunt.
Yeah, I mean, on the point before about Fry's parents, there was quite an acclaimed episode in season 6 or 7 about how like Fry's relationship with his mother, which I thought was a bit strange because she seemed catatonic and sort of indifferent in Luck of the Fryrish, and it was almost implied that like Yancey was unique in caring about his brother's disappearance. And so I think even in that episode they tried to explain that like, oh, she was in denial and she secretly really cared.
Man.
But to me it's just like they're just fishing for the Tumblr screen caps, you know what I mean? They're just fishing for one of those little comics that people make out of images from the episode if the dialogue is like text underneath. It's just corny nonsense.
I get that sort of feeling as well, because like, I think it's the Fryrish episode where she remembers the day he was born because the Mets somehow won some game or something.
Yeah,
and when you see the flashback, she's listening to the game on the radio.
Yeah.
Like, she remembers a Mets game.
Yeah.
It's completely in opposition to the tone of later on. And it's perhaps going for that sort of soft and cuddly cartoon animation crowd sort of thing.
I think it is, yeah.
Which... it is a bit unfortunate, but there are some good episodes in those seasons.
I agree.
And the newest ones here and there, but it's like a good episode, then a bad episode, then a good, and then a bad. It sort of oscillates like that.
Yeah, I liked the first half of the season. Actually, it was some quite good, including the best Christmas episode they ever did, for whatever that's
worth. That might be the best Christmas episode, that's true.
Easily. And then, because the 2 Christmas episodes in the original 4 seasons aren't classics by any means.
They're not great,
They're okay.
I kind of prefer the second one.
Oh, the second one's
better.
Bender becomes
Santa.
Sanders. That's superior, I would agree.
That's the slightly better one.
But, I've actually seen the 4th, 5th, and 6th episodes of this new second half. I haven't seen the first 3 yet. What were they? That Matador episode was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was alright.
And then there was I can't remember the next.
It's kind of like the first episode. He goes back to Mexico. That episode would have been. I could see where it could have been better, especially in like a season 2.
yeah.
Like I was literally thinking that when I was watching.
Oh
it.
wow, yeah.
Yeah, funnily enough. But yeah, then the second episode I think was like a Squid Games parody. That was pretty bad.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Because it was a mixture of like a real life board game, like alien. It was like an early Star Trek, like an original series sort of premise.
Yeah.
Where these aliens are forcing Fry and all these friends to reenact his like 10th birthday party.
Oh.
But like with gruesome, deathly outcomes. Like instead of monkey in a barrel, they have to hang on each other's arms and then they drop into a vat of acid and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And characters are actually dying, and like Amy's like, "Oh my god, they're dead!" and shit like that. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? And then mixed in with that, there's all these sentimental flashbacks to Fry's parents like helping him out on his 10th birthday party.
Oh, really?
And the kid from that science flashback episode,
I remember that. Yeah.
He's there and he's like Fry's friend, and he's like accusing Fry of doing all this cheating, and I guess that's when everyone turned on Fry as a kid. Like it completely rewrites Fry as like some smart character or something when he's a kid.
Oh.
Which is in opposition to his character as an adult anyway in the show.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he's this kid, and everyone accuses him of cheating, but then at the end it does remember when Leela's parents were helping Leela out with all the things in her life or whatever, and there's a montage at the end of that episode?
I think so.
The Leela's parents episode. And it's still a weird Dido song or something.
Yeah.
I assume. I imagine if it is, it probably is.
Huh.
But anyway, they do that again, but Fry's mum's helping him out with all the party games. So he was cheating, but he thought he wasn't. But I guess his mum was.
Okay.
And I'm like,
that's such fishy.
It was awful.
Oh, that's so
it was
pandering.
one of the worst Futurama episodes I've seen, honestly.
Yeah. Holy crap. I'm not that motivated to watch. I will probably watch it, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and the third one, what was the third one called?
Well, it's called The Temp.
Yeah, that was the better one of them, because it's not quite as good as it could be, but it was slightly surreal. It was just a bit like a weird science fiction sort of magazine story type thing. But it was not quite as good as it could have been, but it was way better than the previous one.
Did you get confused? Because I said the Matador one, and you mentioned what appears to be the plot of the first episode. Or did you? Were you?
No.
You distinguished the two, I assume.
Yeah. The first one's where he goes back to Mexico.
Yeah, for some reason I thought the Matador one was Mexico for a moment.
Nah, I assume it's Spain.
Mars, yeah.
Mars, that's... But yeah, they're doing
the Matador one was okay. And the other two, 5 was the Leela and the chatbot, which I thought was okay.
Yeah, that was alright.
And then...
that episode was... Yeah, that was one of the better ones of the season.
And then the one I quite liked was the professor was the fashion designer and the ending one, which is quite good, actually.
That was probably the best episode of the season, where the professor became... That was a great professor episode, definitely. That could have been in the original run. When that was happening, professor is like a Warhol sort of... I'm like, yeah. As if they just didn't happen already. Yeah. They're onto something there, I agree.
Yeah, there's been another one out since then. I guess I'll have to watch that at one point. But yeah, in any instance, very positive feelings I have about the Cryonic Woman.
Yeah.
Good, really solid ending to season 2. An interesting phase of the show, because I think when you split the show, you realise how much of the show's character in people's minds comes from season 3 and 4, as we were kind of inferring earlier.
Yeah.
And I happen to... Those are the seasons I like more overall, but I do have a similar adoration for the kind of more, I guess you could say, simple quality, the modest quality of the earlier programs, that being said.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the only season 1 stan in the world. It's I kind of find that interesting. For some reason, I love... The rest of the whole run of the first show is the best. But for some reason, it's probably just because I owned the DVD as a kid. Season 1 is just so good. I love it.
I just find some of the season 4 is just so mystifying and just compelling. Like, you know, like The Sting, Absolutely Fabulous, Farnsworth
Oh,
Paradox.
it's probably the best stuff. I guess I sort of think of season 1 as its own show, and then 2, 3, and 4 as the next show.
Wow,
like,
okay.
The expansion of that first season.
Huh.
The first season being like a sort of traditional sitcom, and the second, third, and fourth being a bit more expansive.
Yeah.
The second is like a bit more one foot in both worlds and not quite working because of that.
Sometimes, I guess.
No, sometimes it's the best, but like the episode you pointed out earlier.
Yeah.
But when you get into season 3 and 4, it's almost like a half sitcom, half like adventure show.
Yeah.
And like somewhat philosophical drama as far as like a cartoon sitcom.
Yeah.
Can take that idea.
Yeah, better than all the shows that tried to do it afterward, that's for sure.
And genuine science fiction, yeah.
Yes.
So there's that to it. Whereas the first season, there's like the science fiction takes the back seat. For example, it's more of a sitcom, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I suppose.
Like the science fiction inspires the scenarios for them to have
jokes here and
the
there.
situations for the comedy, you know. Whereas no, later on they definitely it becomes a bit more way more expansive as a writing piece or something. Certainly.
What do you think was the most like science fiction heavy episode of the first 4 seasons?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I've got one potential answer in my mind.
Yeah, like I haven't seen those seasons in quite a while, so I guess we'll watch through them and we'll get to that by the end.
I was going to suggest it's Time Keeps on Slipping.
Yeah, that's the first one that came to my head there. I haven't seen it in a while, but that's one that definitely would get brought up because it's a very typical sort of piece. It's similar to the Bender becoming the god as well.
Godfellow, that's brilliant.
That's a very like new wave science fiction sort of piece. The Parabox as well.
Oh, I love that.
That's sort of taking a
that was so exciting.
sitcom approach to one more so, but still it works very well.
Professor Funk's work.
Yeah, like that's less. It's taking like a similar to the first season where it'll take one of these sort of the aesthetic one of these stories and the principles of one of them, you know, and just make a sitcom out of it.
Yeah.
But that one's a bit more refined. Yeah, there'd be a few more episodes, I suppose.
I guess Roswell could be right up there.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's
that was one of the show's finest moments.
It's about causality, and it does lead into the exterior plot of the brainwave or whatever.
Yes,
and him
good
in the
point.
future.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an example of how the show by the third and fourth season gets very expansive and self-referential, and there's like a sort of mythology. It's very cohesive, you know, for a sitcom animated show.
Yeah, Why is an absurdly powerful episode in season 4, like one of these shows. Like seeing that,
that's
when you're
another
young,
one.
Is just like wow.
Seeing that for the first
like
time,
Fry getting like kind of wiped out for the next timeline. You know, it's just magnificent
on television as well. I was like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
So there's a few of those episodes definitely. They are genuinely science fiction, and I'm keen to get into it.
Yeah, and we're going to be approaching the dawn of that in season 3 next time.
Yeah.
Swiftly.
What's the first episode of season 3?
Amazon Women in the Mood.
Oh yeah, nice. I thought that was the start of season 2.
No, that's the second that emotion.
Oh,
where they
okay.
introduced the mutants, the emotion chip.
Yeah, we must have talked about Amazon Women in the Mood in like an earlier episode.
I think we did,
because I remember talking about it on the show, but it must
maybe in like Love's Labours, one of the other like gender.
Yeah, it was in Love's Labours. Okay,
conflict with the sexes episodes.
Cool. I like
true sort of episodes.
No, that's a good episode, and it's kind of topical at the moment. Women's basketball.
Oh yeah, Caitlin Clark. I hear about that because I'm an avid listener of MLC. That's the only reason I know anything about American sports.
Yeah.
KB is the man. Oh, we saw Tuna Town today. That was great. He showed his cat on stream. It was amazing. It was magnificent. It was the greatest moment in the history of the show.
Nice. But yeah, no. Season 3.
Yeah, let's bring it on. If you got guts, then bring it on.